Welcome back to Leading Experts, everybody. I'm Graison Foster. My guests today are Deborah and Daryl Dougal. This husband and wife team are the owners of Probate Liquidators of Vancouver, Washington, and they help families get through the stressful process of probating a will as quickly and easily as possible. They also work with a nationwide team of professionals who've helped hundreds of families across the country. They are highly trained to work with personal representatives, attorneys, and heirs to help expedite what can be a lengthy and financially devastating process. All right, Deborah, what if I live, let's say, in another state, Oregon or Florida or something, but the relative that I'm been named the executor for lives in your state, Washington State? How can you help me?
Well, by contacting us, then we can take care of getting that property off your hands or whatever it would need to do. Okay. We can work with other professionals across the country as well. But if you're in another place, we can step in and take care of that process for you. We can buy the assets, take care of them, and take it off your hands.
Okay.
And may I add to that?
Absolutely.
In that, oftentimes what will happen is, let's say that somebody has lived in, well, for instance, in Vancouver, Washington, which is a suburb of Portland, Oregon. Okay. They've lived there. They've lived in Boise, Idaho. They lived in Salt Lake City. And now they live in Washington, D.C., and they pass away. Mm-hmm. And their executor or personal representative lives in L.A. Okay. Well, that can be very problematic because a totally separate probate case has to be opened in every single one of those places where there's property. Because that's what probate is all about, is when there's property, when there's assets, that's what probate does.
Right.
And so, for instance, that personal representative in Los Angeles would have to be flying around to these different cities. A probate case has to be set up in each place. They have to be dealing with the court system in each of those different states, and it can be different because there's no federal probate law. It's all by state.
Right.
And that can be, and that can just immensely add to the stress and the frustration of the personal representative. And so by the fact that we're in Vancouver, we can just very quickly buy any of the assets that are there like that. And then that takes one piece out of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. And then we have a network, as you mentioned in the introduction, of probate liquidators across the country. Right. And we can get that personal representative in contact with those people in these other cities. And again, they can purchase the assets, liquidate the assets. And it's amazing how quickly the probate case then can be expedited.
Now, you also say that you help cash out heirs. How does that process work?
Well, for some of the heirs who may be expecting an inheritance, they may have some personal needs and can't wait 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years to get some of that cash. Right. And so we do have the resources that we can give them a portion of that inheritance at the time they need it without having to wait for the entire process to be completed.
How much easier is this entire process if you have life insurance?
Well, it can make it a whole lot easier. Now, life insurance, Graison, has a beneficiary. Mm-hmm. And it does not go to the probate estate. Okay. So upon death, the life insurance is paid out to the beneficiary, which may be the spouse, may be the children, or somebody else. Right. And so it's not in the probate, it's not available for the creditors. And so that's a good thing for the family because very short period of time they can get the money that they need. Mm-hmm. And then also the spouse, for instance, men generally predecease their wives. Yeah. And so, your male listeners definitely ought to realize that if they want to take care of their spouses and their families, they should definitely have life insurance because then the beneficiary can get that money and they can continue to live on because things that are in the estate get tied up for a long period of time.
Now, how does your firm work with my attorney, my probate attorney, let's say? How does that work?
That's a great question. Like I say, I'm a licensed CPA, and I need to mention here that anything we say here on your show, and when we deal with people directly, even though I'm a licensed CPA, I don't practice in the state of Washington or the state of Oregon, and anything we say should not be taken as legal advice, tax advice, accounting advice, or financial planning advice. Right. But because I'm a professional, I can deal very efficiently with probate attorneys. And when I was an FBI agent, I dealt in the court system all the time. I've been an expert witness in federal court, and I've dealt with attorneys a lot. And so we deal very effectively with attorneys. And people can do the probate process without an attorney, but I would strongly suggest they get an attorney to really understand the process and to go through it. And then we work hand in hand with the attorney to provide services to their clients.
And every citizen has to go through the process of probate, regardless of whether or not there's a will, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
If a person dies intestate, that means there is no will. And if they die testate, that means there is a will. And in either case, any of those assets that remain need to go through the probate process.
Okay. Daryl, I know this is an important point that you want to make, but you help expedite the probate process by helping to liquidate those assets. So walk us through that.
Okay. Once somebody passes away, the probate is started, and an individual, like we mentioned, the personal representative, then is appointed as the person that administers the estate.
Okay.
Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that the mortgage company doesn't say, oh, I'm sorry about what happened. Well, you don't have to pay the mortgage now for the average of 3 years that probate's take in this country. And the car loan company doesn't say, oh, we'll stop. You don't have to pay us car loan payments or anything. And,
right.
and the credit card companies don't do the same thing. So those same monthly payments that were being made beforehand still have to be made now. And it comes very quickly to the understanding of the personal representative that there's a lot of money involved here.
Right.
These payments still have to be made. And for instance, with the mortgage, if the mortgage is not made on time, that property can still go into foreclosure. The bank or mortgage company is not barred just because it's in probate from doing what they have a legal right to do, which is take the property into foreclosure. And oftentimes what we find is that houses, which oftentimes are the major asset in probate cases, can wind up in foreclosure, and then it can be foreclosed on and taken away. So that major asset that's in the probate case could be gone. But what we can do is we can step in immediately. The personal representative doesn't have to wait months and months. Generally, as soon as they are named as a personal representative, they have authority, sometimes with the court's approval, sometimes without, depending on the state, but they have the authority to sell off the assets, to liquidate them. So we can come in and we can buy them, and of course we're liquidators, we don't pay full retail, but we come in and we can buy them and infuse cash into that probate estate very, very quickly.
So you're purchasing at fair market value. What assets can you buy exactly?
We can buy homes, apartments, businesses, boats, cars, jewelry, furniture, anything that is in the estate. People who get our services can have us purchase just the house or everything in the house and everything there is as well. It just depends on what they need.
How is it possible that you can close so quickly?
Well, we have a buyer's list. We know people that would like to buy certain types of real estate.
Okay.
We know the people who like to buy types of jewelry. We have contacts with jewelry stores and art galleries, auto auctions. So we can very quickly, once we buy these things from the estate, we can very quickly then turn around and sell these things off.
I've got about a minute before we need to take a break, but I know a point that you want to make is that you are not distressed home consultants or foreclosure consultants, and explain that.
That's right. A lot of states recently have come up with new laws because of the way the foreclosures have been going around, because unfortunately there are some people out there that are trying to take advantage of people in foreclosure. And so states have come up with these laws that basically say that if you directly target people who are in foreclosure and try to take advantage of them or charge them a fee up front or provide them a litany of services, that you're a distressed home consultant. We aren't distressed home consultants. We don't do any of that. We're simply independent third-party buyers who come in and buy the assets. We don't list the assets, we come in and buy them.
All right, stay with us everybody. More with the Probate Liquidators of Vancouver, Washington right after the break.